Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Casey Whitman. I'm 38, a father of twin boys, and husband to the strongest woman I've ever met. You don't expect betrayal from your own parents. You don't expect to sit in a hospital hallway, clutching your phone with trembling fingers, and hear your mother say, "You are such a hassle." That was the night Emily was rushed into emergency surgery. Her appendix had ruptured. The word the surgeon used was peritonitis. It could turn septic. It could kill her. I remember standing there under those awful fluorescent lights, trying not to panic, trying to focus. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even breathing. I was just trying to survive the moment. Our boys, Milo and James, were only 4. They were at home with our neighbor, Margaret, a widow who had a morning shift at the pharmacy and couldn't stay overnight. I needed help. Just one night. Just until morning. So I called my parents. They lived 20 minutes away in a house I helped them afford after my dad's HVAC business went under. I had been supporting them ever since: rent, utilities, groceries, even their insurance. They'd eaten dinner at our house almost every Sunday for years. They knew Emily. They had held the twins as newborns. I wasn't asking for money. I was asking for them to watch their grandsons. To show up. "We have Fleetwood Mac tickets tonight," my mom said, like she was declining a brunch invitation. "Your brother Tyler drove down from Seattle for this. We've been planning for months." I thought I misheard her. "Emily's in surgery," I said. "This is serious. The boys are scared." My dad chimed in from the background. "Call a babysitter, Casey. We're not missing this." I stood in silence for a full minute. That's when I felt it, not rage, not heartbreak, just this cold, clear understanding. They weren't going to come. They weren't going to help. And maybe they never really had. I hung up the phone. That was the night I realized something. I had been giving, always giving, time, money, care, and in the one moment I needed them, they chose a concert. Emily spent 4 hours in surgery. I paid $300 to an overnight sitter just to stay with the boys while I sat alone in that sterile waiting room, staring at the blinking clock and praying my wife would live. She did. But something inside me died that night. Emily survived. The doctors told me she was lucky. The infection hadn't spread as far as they feared. But she spent 2 days in the ICU, fighting a fever that wouldn't break, hooked up to tubes and monitors, groaning in pain through dry, cracked lips. I didn't leave her side. I took calls from work in the hallway, ordered food I barely touched, and FaceTimed the boys at night to help them feel safe. They missed their mom. I missed myself. I kept expecting a text. A call. Something. But my parents never reached out. Not once. Not to ask how Emily was doing. Not to ask if the boys were okay. Not even a lazy, half-hearted, thinking of you. 3 days later, I got a text from my mother. "Are you bringing the twins to Sunday dinner?" That was it. Not, "How's Emily?" Not, "Do you need help?" Just, business as usual. Emily was home by then, recovering slowly. Still pale. Still in pain. Still unable to lift the boys or even walk from the couch to the kitchen without my help. When I told her about the text, she stared at me with tired eyes. They didn't even check in once. I shook my head. I didn't have the energy to sugarcoat it. She let out a breath and turned away. "Casey. I love you, but you have to see them for who they really are." I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to believe it. They were my parents. They'd raised me. They'd cheered at my Little League games, bought me my first toolbox, helped me move into my first apartment. I owed them everything. Didn't I? But then I thought about the last few months. The little things I'd brushed off. When Milo broke his arm last summer, they didn't come to the ER because they had plans with friends. When James had pneumonia in February, they visited once, for 20 minutes, then complained about parking. And when Emily miscarried our third child in January, my mother actually said, maybe it wasn't meant to be. I told myself they were just old-fashioned. Emotionally distant. I made excuses for them like it was my job. But now, sitting at the edge of our bed while Emily winced with every breath, I couldn't pretend anymore. They didn't show up when it mattered. They hadn't shown up in a long, long time. That Sunday, they posted photos from the Fleetwood Mac concert on Facebook. Smiling. Backstage passes. Dinner downtown. Tyler tagged them in everything. My parents looked happy. Younger. As if the people they'd once claimed to love weren't going through the worst week of their lives. That was the moment I felt it snap. A final, irreversible break. I stared at those photos and something inside me hardened. This wasn't disappointment. It was grief. I grieved the parents I thought I had. The ones I believed would always have my back. The ones I had helped every month, without fail, for 3 years. They had chosen a concert over their grandkids. Over my wife's life. And now, I had to decide what I was going to choose. 3 days after Emily came home, I sat in my truck outside our house, engine idling, staring at a message from my dad. Can you check on the transfer? Our rent is due. Looks like something didn't go through. I stared at the text, thumb hovering over the screen. 3 years. That's how long I had been sending them $2,000 a month. I never asked for thanks. I never questioned where it went. But now. Now I couldn't stop questioning everything. That night, after putting the boys to bed and helping Emily ease onto the couch, I sat at my laptop and logged into the bank account I had set up for emergencies, for them. A separate savings account linked to my name, but they had full access to it. They had treated it like their safety net. What I found wasn't just disturbing. It was betrayal all over again, this time with receipts. In the last 12 months, they had withdrawn $1,200 for a spa weekend at Cannon Beach. $890 for a flat-screen TV. $650 at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. $215 for Billie Eilish Live, yes, really. $908 for hotel and meals the same weekend as the Fleetwood Mac concert. $450 per ticket for the concert itself. My stomach turned. While I was sobbing into my hands in a sterile waiting room, wondering if my kids would grow up without their mother, they were whining and dining themselves using the money I had labeled Emergency Family Fund. I called Emily into the room. She sat beside me in silence, scrolling through the statements. After a few minutes, she whispered, "They're not struggling. They're indulging." I nodded. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just empty. All those years I thought I was helping. I thought I was doing right. Turns out, I was just footing the bill for their second adolescence. "I'm going to stop the transfers," I said. Emily didn't hesitate. "You should." That night, I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling. Thinking about every time they called me responsible, every time they told me how grateful they were for the help. What they really meant was, keep the money coming. It wasn't gratitude. It was dependence. And they didn't even have the decency to pretend they cared when we needed them most. I opened my phone and drafted a message to my attorney. I want to cut them off. Permanently. And I want it documented. The next morning, the transfer was cancelled. The emergency account was frozen. And I started planning for what came next. Because this wasn't just going to be a quiet goodbye. It was going to be a reckoning. I used to think revenge was a loud thing. Screaming. Confrontation. Drama. But real revenge? It's quiet. Precise. Permanent. The morning after I froze the accounts, I called my phone provider and removed my parents from my plan. I cancelled their car insurance. I contacted their landlord and let him know that starting next month, I would no longer be covering their rent. Then I called my attorney. I want everything documented, I said. No loopholes. No way for them to say they didn't know. He recommended sending a certified letter, laying out each discontinued support line. Rent. Insurance. Utilities. The emergency account. Everything. So I did. I wrote it at the kitchen table while Emily helped the boys with puzzles. Dear Mom and Dad. Effective immediately, I am terminating all financial support. This includes monthly transfers, access to the emergency account, cell phone coverage, car insurance, rent assistance, any and all expenses I have been covering. This decision is final. If you have further needs, please contact Tyler or make alternate arrangements. Casey. I printed it. Signed it. Had it notarized. Sent it certified mail. 3 days later, they received it. I know, because my dad called me that afternoon. Casey, he said, voice strained. There's some issue with the bank. Our rent's due and we're short. I kept my voice steady. No issue, Dad. I cancelled the transfer. Silence. Then, why the hell would you do that? Because Emily almost died. Because I called you, begged you, to help with the boys. And you said you had concert tickets. My dad scoffed. That's not fair. We made plans. Those tickets weren't cheap. You made a choice, I said coldly. And now I'm making mine. He sputtered something about how I was overreacting. How Emily was fine now. How I'd always been too sensitive. So I hung up. 20 minutes later, my mom called. I didn't answer. Then she texted. We're family. You don't just turn your back over one silly incident. I wanted to scream. Silly. That silly incident was the night I thought I might lose the woman I love. Instead, I replied. This is what it looks like when someone stops being your ATM. And I blocked her. Tyler called later that night. His voice was lower. Calculated. Look, Casey. I get that you're upset. But they're older now. They can't work. You can't just abandon them. They abandoned me when it mattered, I snapped. You drove down for a concert, not for your sister-in-law's emergency surgery. You're welcome to pick up the bill from here on out. Tyler paused. They made a mistake. No, Tyler. They made a choice. And now? They can live with the consequences. I ended the call and added his number to the block list too. The next few days were oddly quiet. Peaceful, even. No demands. No guilt trips. No masked entitlement. Just me, Emily, and the boys. Real family. But deep down, I knew the silence wouldn't last. They'd come back. They'd try to twist this into something it wasn't. And when they did, I'd be ready. It didn't take long. The following Tuesday, I had 17 missed calls and 12 voicemails before lunch. I didn't answer any of them. But I listened. The first few were full of confusion. Casey, there must be some mistake, my mom said in one message. We just tried to use the emergency account, and the card was declined. Then came my dad, what the hell's going on? Our rent check bounced. By voicemail 6, the tone had changed. You ungrateful little, my father snarled, before the message cut off. By the end, they sounded desperate. Pathetic. Tyler says he can help for a bit, my mom whined. But he can't cover everything. Casey, please. This can't be permanent. It was. That weekend, I took the boys to the park. We kicked a soccer ball, got ice cream, and laughed until our faces hurt. Emily sat on the bench, smiling softly as she watched us. She was still a little pale, but the light was coming back into her eyes. We were healing. And they were unraveling. Monday morning, I got another text from Tyler. Mom and Dad are really struggling. This is affecting the whole family. We need to talk. I replied. They struggled to find a babysitter for their grandkids during a medical emergency. Now they can struggle to pay their bills. That same afternoon, a delivery showed up at my door, a thick envelope with my name on it, from my parents. Inside, photos from the concert. A letter from my mom, handwritten on floral stationery, saying things like, "We didn't mean to upset you. Emily is fine now. Why punish us over something that worked out okay in the end?" There it was again. That word. Punish. As if this was about payback. As if I were grounded in bitterness, not clarity. They didn't see what they'd done. Not really. To them, I had overreacted. But to me, this wasn't about punishment. It was about finally accepting the truth. They weren't going to change. They weren't going to understand. And they weren't entitled to anything from me just because we shared blood. They thought the photos would soften me. They thought I'd be moved by backstage passes and smiling faces. Instead, I dropped them straight into the trash. That same night, Emily came into the room holding a mug of tea. "Are you okay?" she asked, seeing the stiff way I was sitting, arms crossed. I nodded. They mailed concert pictures. Like that was supposed to mean something. She frowned. "They still don't get it." "No," I said, "but they will. Because this wasn't over. It was only beginning. You think you know the people who raised you. Until one quiet night, a forgotten folder on a shared drive knocks the wind out of you." I was searching for some old tax documents when I stumbled across a folder labeled, "Dad, Roofing." It should have been empty. I almost skipped past it. But something made me open it. Inside was a mess of PDFs, scanned receipts, a lawsuit filing I recognized from when his business collapsed, and an email thread between my dad and Tyler. The subject line. About Casey's money. My heart started pounding. The messages were dated 8 months before Emily's surgery. My dad wrote. "He still thinks we're in a tight spot. But if we keep playing it smart, he'll keep paying. No need to get Tyler involved just yet unless we run short." I kept scrolling. Tyler responded. "LOL, he's such a martyr. Just keep acting poor. He's obsessed with being the good son. If it keeps the checks coming, I say milk it. Milk it. They've been conning me. All of them. Even Tyler." Suddenly everything snapped into place, like dominoes falling in reverse. My parents weren't just selfish. They were strategic. Tyler hadn't just been clueless, he was complicit. That weekend visit for the Fleetwood Mac concert. It wasn't spontaneous. It was coordinated. Planned down to the dinner bill, with my emergency account as the funding source. They had played me. Used me. Laughed about it behind my back. I sat there, staring at the screen, frozen. My stomach churned. My hands shook. I forwarded every file to my personal drive. I didn't say a word to Emily at first. I needed time to process. But later that night, when I told her everything, she sat in silence, just nodding, lips pressed into a thin line. "They used you," she said. "And Tyler helped." I nodded. I thought I was cutting off leeches. Turns out, I was cutting off liars. The next morning, I made a decision. I forwarded the email thread to Tyler. No message. No explanation. Just the truth. It took 5 minutes for my phone to buzz. Casey. I didn't mean it. That was a long time ago. We were joking. Don't tell them. Please. I didn't know you'd ever see that. I didn't respond. But I knew exactly what to do next. That night, I printed every page of those emails and mailed them to my parents, with a handwritten note clipped to the top. This is what family really means to you. I'll never forget it. Don't contact me again. I thought sending those emails would bring me relief. But what came next? It brought closure. 3 days later, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. It was my father. He sounded broken. Hollow. You didn't have to do that. Your mother's crying. Tyler won't speak to us. We lost everything. Then silence. No apology. No regret. Just blame. And that's when I finally understood. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry they got caught. I didn't respond. A week passed. Then Tyler's number popped up, this time, a text. I moved their stuff into a storage unit. They're in a 1-bedroom now. Mom says you've destroyed the family. I stared at the message and felt nothing. No guilt. No second thoughts. Just peace. That weekend, Emily and I took the twins to their first soccer game. Emily was finally laughing again. The boys were happy. And I wasn't checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for a guilt trip or financial crisis. I was free. It's funny how silence feels when it's earned. I haven't heard from them in over 6 months now. Tyler's gone quiet too. Word around town is that they're scraping by, working part-time jobs. The friends they used to brag to on social media. Gone. The concert lifestyle. Gone. The safety net. Gone. They finally learned how it feels to be left alone when you need someone most. Poetic, isn't it? People say you should never turn your back on family. But I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when everything falls apart. And when they don't, it's okay to let them fall. Emily's strong again. The boys are growing fast. And me? I don't miss them. I miss the parents I thought I had, but not the people they turned out to be. Sometimes, justice isn't a courtroom. Sometimes, it's a choice. A final door closed. And never opened again. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.